please can you help us define business days and calendar days on contracts? For example, is Saturday technically a business day? And what do we do about national holidays?
Is there anyone else that's connected that might have some questions or have encountered a problem where the number of days, whether calendar or business, described in the sales contract was ever contested?
When other broker agents change a listing to closed and put themselves in as the listing agent and selling agent, what is the best way to recover this and change it to us as the selling agent?
Any other questions or comments? Or did my story rattle anyone's memory as to another story that they might share with everyone? So the question is, when someone buys a condo, do you have ownership in the land?
Welcome to the Nick Fong Podcast. As the broker and owner of Ronival Real Estate, Nick has spent nearly 20 years in Baja, California, sir. And in this podcast, he'll be talking everything Baja, from food and culture to real estate and property management. And now, here's your host, Nick Fong.
All right, welcome back to the podcast. Today, we're going to do a little bit of a different format. It's going to be Q&A with our real estate agents connecting on a Zoom call. But here in person, I have Sergio Benitez, our operations manager, who is going to read off the questions that our agents submit every week. And we have a couple to start us off.
That is correct. Well, the first question we have is from Emma, who's one of our top agents in Los Barriles. And it reads, please, can you help us define business days and calendar days on contracts? For example, is Saturday technically a business day? And what do we do about national holidays?
This is a problem that comes up with the different holidays, both in Mexico, United States, Canada. And if we put business days on our sales contract, the problem we come into is if we're not specific enough what country business days, it's going to be a problem if ever contested legally. So my recommendation is in our contract to use calendar days. It's undeniable, it's unquestionable what a calendar day is, regardless of a holiday, regardless if we're considering Saturday being a business day or not. So Emma, hopefully that answers your question. Is there anyone else that's connected that might have some questions or have encountered a problem where the number of days, whether calendar or business, described in the sales contract was ever contested?
A good thing to do is probably ask your client if he's a Canadian or American. Is there any holiday on the next 2 weeks? So that way you will add an extra day to the offer.
Yeah, so if you want to put holidays or business days and you want to specify Mexican, American, or United States business days, you can do so. But you're only opening yourself up to more problems and questions and potential future disputes if the number of days expires and buyer is telling you, well, we don't consider Labor Day in Mexico a holiday, or the opposite, right? And so I can tell you that I actually had a situation 15 years ago where we signed a sales contract and it was the date format. In the United States, we're used to doing the month, day, and year. So today being September 17th, I think, it would be 09/17/2022. But in Mexico, it is the year is at the end, of course, but it's the day, month, and year. So it would be 17/09/2022. And the issue was, this I think was back in 2006, what happened was the contract was written for the American, but the seller was Mexican. And so 01/11/2006 meant November 1, 2006, but to the American, it meant January 11th. And so it ended up where the seller being Mexican, the sale being in Mexico, we went with the November 1st date. And it made a substantial difference where this buyer lost their deposit as a result. And the deposit was like $150,000. So dates do matter. The format of the date, the using calendar days or business days, my recommendation is to use calendar days. So Jesus, when you use 15 days of due diligence, just put the word calendar in front of it. Any other questions or comments? Or did my story rattle anyone's memory as to another story that they might share with everyone?
I have the same trouble with the dates. So from now on, I usually do in letters. I put August 16, and then I make sure everybody knows, and it's not confusion between the U.S. and Mexico.
Yeah, that's another way to do it, is just spell it out for the date format.
Yeah.
All right. Terry Stevens, you had a hand in the air?
I do. And so I'm assuming when you put calendar days on and close of escrow is on a weekend, I'm assuming that it closes on, say, Monday.
Well, when we talk about the closing date, we actually specify in the sales contract the closing date. We actually spell out that closing date. When we talk the number of days, we're typically talking about contingency. So whether it's a home inspection, if it's a mortgage contingency, it is any kind of due diligence, right, Michael Hopkins, where we're saying 30 days, or we're being very specific and saying this date, and we're spelling it out and not using a number format, because that could be misinterpreted, like the story I just gave. So spelling it out, September 17th, 2022, 17th of September, 2022, but actually writing it out, the word, the month, September.
Great. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for being a part of the Nick Fong Podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast to get the latest updates. And if you're watching this on our social channels, please like and share. And if you want to be featured, or you want me to talk on a certain topic, food, activities, culture, real estate in the Baja, drop a comment.
We have another question also coming from Los Barriles, from Emma. And it reads, when other broker agents change a listing to closed and put themselves in as the listing agent and selling agent, what is the best way to recover this and change it to us as the selling agent? And she says, recently I asked a broker agent to do this and they said that they would consider it.
Okay, so there's no consideration. When you're the selling agent representing the buyer of a listing and the listing isn't yours, it closes and you're looking on the MLS and it doesn't even show your name as the selling agent representing the buyer. First thing, bring it up to the listing agent, have them make the change. In this case, if the listing agent says, I'll think about it, then bring it up to your broker. Your broker will make an inquiry, a complaint to the MLS. This is an MLS issue if the listing agent doesn't do the right thing, which is to recognize you and your brokerage as the selling agent and selling broker. Anyone have that come up as an issue where you've sold a property and then you check in the MLS and your name is not to be found, but the listing agent puts their name down as the selling agent? Dee Dee, did that happen to you?
Lots of times. It's kind of typical in our little community that I don't know if it's because they don't understand SA as selling agent, I would like to think it wasn't intentional, but who knows? But I've always been able to rectify it directly with the other agent.
Yeah, just a very good set of terms, knowledge. Listing agent and selling agent. When I first got into real estate, selling agent, when I heard that term, I thought it was representing the listing. No, that's the listing agent. You representing the buyer is the selling agent. And the reason why they call it the selling agent, it's because in real estate, we look at the person representing the buyer, really the person that's selling the property. And the listing agent is the one that puts the listing live, that answers any questions, arranges the appointments, makes sure the documentation is in order, and negotiates on behalf of the seller. But the person really selling the property is the one that's representing the buyer. So that's really important, especially the newer agents. And you could be even experienced when you say the selling agent, just know that means that's the person representing the buyer. Now, where that can be confusing for our non-native English-speaking folks, agents, when we say selling agent, different from seller's agent. The seller's agent is the listing agent. You see the difference? Just that little bit of a difference makes a world of difference. Any other questions? Was there any questions in the chat?
I have a question, Nick. When somebody purchases a condo, do they have any property rights on the land where the condo or where the villa was built?
Okay. So the question is, when someone buys a condo, do you have ownership in the land? And the answer is no. As a condo, you're just owning the property, the four walls, the roof, the floor, and you have typically in a condo project, the CC&Rs, the condo bylaws, have a percentage of ownership that's dedicated to each unit owner. And that also is transcribed in the title, in the deed, in the fideicomiso, the escritura. And so, for example, if it was a 100-unit condo project, it would be maybe 1%. Now, typically, it is a percentage based on the size of your unit. So if you have a bigger unit, you would have more than 1% ownership in the property, which would be the whole community.
Thank you. That responded very well.
You know, that's different, Jesus, than someone that would buy a house. You do own the land, right? So when you have a condo, you're just owning the four walls. Any other questions? Okay. Have a good weekend, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Nick Fong Podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and the YouTube channel at youtube.com/Ronival Real Estate and follow Nick on Instagram at NickFong_Ronival. Ready to find your Baja dream home? Check out the latest property listings at Ronival.com or findmexicohouses.com. Hasta luego.